Welcome, G.I. Joe fans. Welcome to this week's G.I. Joe Toy Review, where we will be looking at G.I. Joe's first Arctic Trooper, Snow Job. And the question is, will he live up to the hype of being the first G.I. Joe Arctic Trooper? We will find out. I know I did say Monday that the first G.I. Joe and the first Transformer videos will have shoutouts of the month, but I kind of decided that I'm just going to do the shoutouts of the month on the first Transformers video of the week. So we're just going to go ahead and go through with our shoutouts without our shoutouts of the week. But we are going to find out the answer to that question of Snow Job being worthy of being G.I. Joe's first Arctic Trooper. But we're going to start with his file card. Here's a picture of Snow Job right there with the G.I. Joe logo, because he is a member of G.I. Joe. And it says Arctic Trooper, codename Snow Job. File name Moore Harlan W. Primary military specialty is Arctic Ski Patrol. Secondary military specialty is rifle instructor. And his birthplace is Rutland, Vermont. Well, I guess you could do some skiing in Vermont, depending on how much snow they get. His grade is an E6, and he's a sergeant. Snow Job was a major Olympic biathlon contender. He enlisted initially for special training and support privileges that the Army gives to Olympic champions. However, to the consternation of Army PR flaks, Snow Job volunteered and was accepted into the G.I. Joe team. Qualified expert, all NATO long-range marksman rifles, XMLR-3A laser rifle, and it's submitted by Gung Ho. So it's a quote by Gung Ho. You think we all call him Snow Job because he does his job on skis? Negative. He's a con artist, pure and simple. Except when he picks up his rifle, sure as heck something's going to fall down. So that does say a lot for Snow Job. You know, which is the definition of Snow Job, as being, you know, you're doing a con job. You know, you done Snow Job me, man. That's an old reference. But let's take a look at his accessories. He's got his figure stand, upraised G.I. Joe logo, codename Snow Job on the front. And he does come with a pair of white skis. Now, unfortunately, you can have him where he can stand on his skis. And these skis are, well, pretty much average looking skis. And you could just pick him on to his skis like so. So in a way, he doesn't need his figure stand to stand. But for those who don't know, he's Snow Job. It's good to have him on his figure stand. But those are his skis, but they cannot peg on the figure stand. Now we've seen some of the Frogmen, and the Seals, kind of like Wetsuit and Torpedo, Cobra Eels, Cobra Diver, Sub Viper. You know. The pair of Vipers, we all seen how they can peg on the figure stands with their swim fins. And Blizzard, which we will be looking at here this month, his skis can actually peg on the figure stand, just as the Snow Serpent's snowshoes and Sub-Zero snowshoes can fit on figure stands. But fortunately, Snow Job's doesn't, so that crosses a point. That's a point taken away from Snow Job here. But he also, speaking of his skis, he does come with 2 ski poles, so he can go down the hill. And he comes with this backpack, which, as you can see right there, there's 2 holes in the back that could hold his skis, plus these 2 little indents could hold his ski poles, you know, as he could plug it to his back. And then he's got his XMLR-3A laser rifle, which came the substitute rifle for all G.I. Joe figures in the cartoon. He's also got a pair of removable goggles and his snow hat. You know, and now let's look at Snow Job. White uniform. I mean, it's a little dingy on my copy, but I've had him for a while. He's got that red beard, and his head can do a full 360. Can do some up and down. His arm can raise to about here. He can also go all the way around the full 360 all the way around. He can bend at the elbow. And then I'm going to show this arm with the rest of the articulation. You know, because there's a reason. His arm can swivel all the way at the elbow. He can swivel at the elbow. And the reason why I showed well, I didn't really need to show the elbow swivel on this arm because he could do it on this arm. You know, he could swivel his arm around on this arm very well. But the reason why I did it is I had an issue with his hand when I bought him and I had to glue it on. He does have his ab crunch feature right here. And he can split about this far, mainly due to his coat being in the way. He can lift his leg up just so high because of the coat. He does have a double knee joint. And his ankle is on a pivot and a rocker, if I can show it. He can pivot. And swivel, you know, the full 360. So I'm going to gear Snow Job up and show you what he looks like in full battle gear. So here is Snow Job in his all battle geared up. Now he does come with a revolver that fits into this holster right here on his leg. But I decided to give it to a G.I. Joe trooper that didn't come with guns. So, you know, because this is really how Snow Job really used. He never really used that little pistol in the cartoon nor the comic. So I just want to show Snow Job in his original gear. This is a top tier figure, and I do think he is worthy of being a G.I. Joe Arctic Trooper, being the first one released, because he does fit the mold. He comes from a colder climate during the winter time, being in Vermont. But in my opinion, he's a great trooper. He's a great addition to the collection. He's normally seen with the G.I. Joe Polar Battle Bear snowmobile. So technically he is a vehicle driver, but he was sold separately, both in the vintage collection and the 25th anniversary. He was sold separately. But you can also get him with the Polar Battle Bear vehicle, because it was a Target exclusive 2-pack where you get the vintage and the modern Snow Job. But so I would say highly get that. I still have yet to get it, but I will get it. But that'll be it for this week. And I think we have answered that question. He does deserve to be G.I. Joe's first Arctic Trooper. But this has been Snow Job. Now you know, and knowing is head to battle. See you in the next one.